Hey, my brothers and sisters. Um, I was coming to you about a situation. The Lord has showed me, and I wanted to show you, on April the 12th, 20, 2004, in April the 12th, 2021, I was just showing you now, Friday, I was up there on April the 12th. Now, in 2004, I was evicted, unlawfully eviction by Montgomery Police Department, right? And then, I got another eviction in 2021 on April the 12th. And I was just looking at, you know, violation of notification for sex offenders. And you know how the Lord, when I moved out the neighborhood and had moved here, because I prayed and I asked the Lord, I said, well, you got to get me somewhere, because they saying I'm a threat, and and so the Lord moved me. He moved me out of the neighborhood, brought me down here in peace, you know what I'm saying? And I sought somebody, to help me, to get a U-Haul and then move all my stuff down here, you know, people that I hadn't talked to in years, they say I came across their mind, they called to check on me. One friend called to check on me, asked me, about my house. Remember I was telling you that, you know, say him and wife were thinking about me and, and how I always was there for them and bought the place for me. And I was just thinking about Friday. I was up there on April the 12th. And I was in that area, you know, of, they said they had an incident on Atlanta Highway. That place there is right off Atlanta Highway. And, and I was, and then I heard about it was a shooting over there. And I thought about back in 2004, it was a shooting over in the area I was. And the Lord that let me know, the Lord had his hand on me, and I was just thinking about, how, God has always been there. When Moses came to Pharaoh, each time Moses came to Pharaoh and said, let my people go, Pharaoh's heart was hardened. So it wasn't no matter what Moses prayed, Pharaoh was not going to let the children of Israel go. And sometimes when we praying, and people are in position, they don't do like David did in Psalm 51 when Nathan the prophet came to him and David went and repented. Like Jonah, when he went to Nineveh, Nineveh repented. Some people do like Pharaoh. They got that spirit of Pharaoh and the Egyptians. When Moses kept coming to him, every time Moses left with Pharaoh, something happened to the Egyptians. It was a tragedy. And I'm thinking about every time they calling me a threat, and I'm going to church, I'm going to self-improvement programs, and I'm like, Lord, why is they calling me a threat now? And, and then it had hit me that, God said, I got you. And I was, cause I was like, we supposed to be like that jack I showed y'all yesterday, that car jack. That car jack in the jackhammer, jack iron, they used to lift up. Back then they was used to lift up cars, any type of car, any color of car, and no matter what the owner, whether it was rich or poor, whether it was in a high class neighborhood to a low class neighborhood. But that car jack played the vessel of Galatians chapter 6, verse 1 and 2 and 10. And just as we should play the vessel that as that carjack and lift our brothers and sisters up. And that's what my testimony always be about, how God can use us as vessels, because we're the representation, as Ephesians chapter 6, verse 24 tells us we are. But back to Moses and Pharaoh, sometimes we deal with people who God and harden their hearts. And the city of Montgomery Police Department had evicted me on April the 12th, calling me a threat. Now, it puzzled me, it hurt my feelings sometimes and everything, but then God was showing me just what he can do. Because every time I go up there and I pay one of these fines on a made-up sexual abuse notification act, somebody getting killed up there. And I'm saying to myself, I be in them areas, like with Circle K. I was finna go to the service station. God said, go pay your insurance policy. So I went to my insurance policy. I come back to go and get my gas. I found out I was shooting. And that let me know God had his hands on me. And then that same day too, I went down there and I paid on my fine for notification. For this made up sexual abuse notification fine. And every time I'm saying that, and it just dawned on me when I was looking at the news how I was in town, but God covered me. And I sometimes I tell people, don't let your position, curse the place, because that's what Pharaoh did with the children, with the Egyptians. He led them into the Red Sea where all of them died. Use your position as God has blessed you with to be a blessing, or use whatever God bless you with to be a blessing. For that Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 of a soul who just coming to God. Don't make it hard for him, hard for her. That's all, build. Lift each other up. You know what I'm saying? Instead of tearing each other down. And I know there's a lot of times in social media, we use that to tear each other down instead of lift each other up, like that jack. That old time jack it was for lifting up cars, any type of car, any size of car, any color of car. And no matter what that car owner was, And I just wanted to share that with you, and food for thought that, God called us to lift each other up, and we got to stop harden our hearts, because we remember what happened to Pharaoh and the Egyptians. They followed Pharaoh right into the Red Sea where God wiped them out, and see, that's how them curses be coming, because we come against God's blessings, a person in outreach ministry who God had gave the tools to do the work. See, we don't know who God gonna use, but then we could be our own hindrance, and with that, like I say, that's just something that, I just wanted to share. I hope somebody got something out of it, and, take it and practice it in your daily life, and I hope that, like I say, we all think about that jack and we start lifting each other up and being that Galatians chapter 6, verse 1 and 2 and verse 10, for that Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 of an individual, or James chapter 2 of an individual that come across our path. All right. Y'all have a blessed day and night. And, and throughout this year, let's work more so on lifting each other up, male and female, working together, lifting each other up in Christ. Because we represent Christ, so we should do the things that Christ do. He lift up, he don't tear down, he don't cause no division, he build.